welcome to the second installment of the Arts and Ideas Society here at Culturshoc, a gallery culture gathering. And last week we had social media explained to artists. I hope it was explained. And this week, in keeping with our gallery culture, we're going to be talking with Simone Rojas-Pick for her insights into applying into the White Cube gallery for artists, the application process, tips and tricks, etc. Simone is the administrator of Propeller Centre.
Propeller Centre for Visual Arts.
That's why you're the boss. And she's also had experience with galleries in Ottawa, including the Carleton University Art Gallery, and as well as Cube Gallery. So she certainly has a lot of experience and unique insight, and we're very happy to have her here. So please help me welcome Simone.
Yay. Thanks, everyone. So it's a lovely, sunny, steamy day here in Toronto. So happy that we have the nice big window and sun shining in. So yeah, I'm going to give you guys some of my experience from the whole submission application process into galleries. It's a strange world for artists to kind of be coming into galleries and figuring out how to apply, because in a lot of ways, galleries function as this kind of strange little microcosm where they kind of expect you to play by their rules. So there's a certain process you have to go through in order to get yourself in. The most common one that people will try for is open calls for submissions. A lot of galleries will send those out. And as much as it can seem like a really daunting task, galleries want you to be applying to them. So, that whole big list of stuff they ask you to send, it's not just, not just because they want you to jump through the hoops. They really want you to apply. But in most cases, you have maybe 2 to 5 minutes to kind of let a curator, an administrator, a director know who you are as an artist and what you do. And so you have to be pretty consistent and straight to the point, but you also really need to be able to tell them what you do and who you are and sell yourself. Think about any job application you've had, be it working at a coffee shop or an office job. It's the same kind of thing. You're selling yourself and you're selling what you can do. So typically the main things that everyone asks you for is some kind of cover letter. A good way to think about that cover letter is introduce yourself, and then think about, okay, so what can you bring to the table? And then you have your artist statement, which is generally pretty short, small paragraph, a couple sentences. And you kind of talk about what you do, what kind of art you do, what's your artistic philosophy, if you want to go that far. But really just think about it as a way when you meet someone, they say, okay, well, what do you do? Oh, I'm an artist. What kind of art do you do? Answer those kind of questions. Think about a lot like that kind of introductory process when you're meeting someone, because they may not know who you are, they may know nothing about your art, so it's a really awesome way to kind of get that across. And then your artist CV, that has everything that you've done in the artistic world. So like if you participate in group shows, solo shows, even those little coffee shop shows for a lot of artists, they're kind of getting their feet off the ground. Those are really important to have there because it's a good way of knowing where you've been, where you show, and what kind of background you have. If you're just applying generally with one piece, or even if you're applying for a whole show, like what are you saying with that work you're applying for? In my experience doing some curatorial work, a lot of time this is where this is the money right there. This is the thing that really needs to be the clearest. What is your piece? What are you trying to say, and how are you saying it? So you don't have to get really academic. A lot of people think sometimes curators, directors, administrators really want something really academic, saying, okay, so I'm exploring this concept through. Well, you don't always have to do that as long as you're really clear about it. And what is your piece saying? And what are you saying with it? A lot of times, if you're applying to an open call for submission specifically for a show, this still applies. If you're applying, just to get a show somewhere, a lot of this really does apply. You'll be asked typically to send some images. So this is the visual part. This is where you're actually showing your work. If you're not terribly adept at, having high quality photos, you can actually take your own photos quite easily with just a digital camera and a little bit of fun on Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, you can always use Paint too. and just clean it up, make it look as good as possible. It doesn't need to be, you know, a high quality publication image, as long as it's good enough to see. For a lot of juries and selection committees that are actually going through it, they want to be able to see it clearly, easily, and not have to fuss around with format, size, you know. So never, ever, ever embed anything in any kind of program like iPhoto or Photoshop. Make it super easy, because a lot of times the people that are actually reviewing it are artists themselves or different volunteers that are part of committees, and they may not be terribly technically savvy, so they just want to put the image in and be able to see it right away. So, you know, make it as simple as possible for everyone involved. The more complicated you make it, the more likely someone will just go, okay, this is too complicated, let's give it another shot, or let's move to the next one. So that's kind of a good place to start. I mean, if you're trying to get yourself in a gallery, you know, either to be represented by a private gallery or even a small independent gallery, and you want to become part of the roster of artists there, you know, the first place to always look is their website. Now, not all websites are created equal, especially in the arts. Some websites are really good and have all the information you need. Some of them are really vague and don't give you much. So, you know, this is where don't feel scared to call. I mean, the person that's going to be picking up the phone, either an attendant or an employee or a volunteer, they're there to, you know, field those questions. So you just call and speak to the person who can answer your questions about selection and proposals. And more often than not, they'll give you a pretty complete set of answers. If they're not answering them, there's probably someone else you should be talking to. And this is where you find out who it is, because a lot of times it could be a gallery owner, it could be a curator, it could be the director, it could be the administrator, or maybe not, you know. It really does depend on the structure. So find out who it is and who you need to send it to and what the process is. This is where you have to make sure you really listen to the instructions, because a lot of times it can be really easy just to kind of skim it through and go, okay, so this is it, and that's great. And then if you don't cover all your bases, sometimes, you know, your application may not even be looked at. I get a lot of people, you know, who come into the gallery I work at with their big portfolios in hand, or books or catalogs. They have a whole plethora of materials, and they want you to look at it at that moment. I'll tell you right away, that's probably not the thing to be doing unless you know that you're meeting with the person who makes the decisions. Sometimes that can actually really reflect badly on you, you know, so you want to, again, you almost have to play it by these strange games that, you know, the institution has given you. And so, you know, you really have to be aware of that. You can email a gallery and ask questions and get yourself kind of oriented, but, you know, a blog is not an application. When I was doing a big call for submissions for the shows I'm organizing this summer, I got tons of emails saying, this is my blog, please look at my art. I'm like, okay, well, I know nothing about you, and your blog's not taught me anything, but thank you for trying. So, you know, it's really good to, like, think of it, again, as I mentioned, as like a job application. Go through you have to kind of jump through the hoops, and it can be really annoying, especially as an artist. But it's nice to, you know, but the reason why they're asking for this is because they really want to get to know who you are and not just your blog. You know, blogs and websites are actually really good for promoting yourself, and every artist should definitely have one. However, you'll find that that's the thing that people will go to after they've looked over your application. If they want to see more, if they want to know more, it's a great chance for them to actually get your information that way. You know, and in Toronto, there's so many different kinds of galleries. Really be aware of the galleries that you are applying to. Find out what their mandate is. Find out what kind of shows they do. Look at their websites. And see if it's the right fit, because it's like any job you have. You know, you don't want to just work somewhere and kind of deign to work there. I mean, you really want to have your work shown in the right venue, know you're going to reach the right audience, and also know that you're going to kind of play that part into kind of moving forward the gallery. There's a real, once you get yourself past the application process, you actually start getting yourself in spaces, slowly but surely. There really is a great reciprocity that can happen, even in commercial galleries. If you end up being able to get in and get a show, or even just in a group show.